Hello everyone, Zelarinth here, and for this video I was going to kind of go over my plans from release after re-rolling and kind of what units I'm going to be looking at for in the future. Now I typically like to look at tier lists for this to kind of get an understanding of what are the best units, and then find those units that I want to get, and then who are going to be built around them. Now Pridewind has not updated theirs yet, so I can't really react to what they have or what they're going to put out here. But I did go scurry around, and then I found that Loot and Waifus had taken a tier list based off of what was on the CN side. And so we'll kind of look at the units here to kind of get an idea of my future plans. So I've already done in my reroll video, kind of discussed what my target's going to be, which is Kwanju right here of the standard banner, if I can hopefully get her. But I will accept when I use my limited if I get Tsuami first, and then I'll just go ahead and go with her, because I can always get Kwanju with the selector that we will eventually get after 260 pulls. But we'll kind of have to see how that works out. Now, looking at the tier list for future units, one problem we have with this game that I haven't had in the last couple that I've done, like sort of Convalaria, as well as Ash Echoes, is they've already stated on the developer side that they are going to be changing things up completely different than how it ran on the CN side, which we already know that. Because if we look at Tsuami, she came out quite a bit later after release for CN, but we're getting her on the first one. We have the same with Alred, who is coming out alongside her, and you can actually see here on this tier list, it kind of shows why Tsuami is a tier 0, while Alred's down at T2. I mean, Alred's going to probably be skipped by a majority of people just because of how good Tsuami is, unless someone gets extremely lucky. But so we already got that planned out at the beginning, so I don't need to really go into re-rolling and my decisions I'll be making there. Right now, it is currently just looking at future units. And on the Discord, I did find that there is actually a spreadsheet, a Google spreadsheet out there with all of the units on it and all their skills and all that. Now, the translations on here seem to be a bit more rough than what is on Pridewind, and so you'll have to kind of figure it out through that. But one nice thing that this has that Pridewind hasn't really been showing is every type of effect that are in the abilities are actually on here. So like on my one for the Tsuami kit, I did put a post in my comments kind of stating, hey, you can look at the things that I didn't know what they were by coming to this spreadsheet. It tells you what all those statuses are. So this is a good spot to see all units currently that exist in the CN version. And so this is what I'm kind of using to reference on who I want to go for as the debut banners come out. And so when we take a look at these, the first thing is always look at who they have on tier 0 and then kind of build around specific units that I seem to like there. And so we kind of start here with these 5 units right at the top. And as I'm looking at these units, I'm just going to make the caveat that this is a very preliminary kind of look and just getting an idea of teams. I haven't really been able to go through every single kit of every single unit in this game yet to get a full understanding. So I will make a video updated in the future, probably this next weekend, on any changes in my preferences just based on what I've seen after I've actually been able to play the game for a little bit. So looking at these units, the first thing is looking for synergies. And how I've used the spreadsheet is mostly at this point just looked at what are the pros and what are the cons of these units. And then I try and look through these other ones on the lower tiers that you're going to want to build alongside them. So the first one that stuck out to me here is Kluke here. And so one of the big things I've noticed with her is when you go into her kit on the spreadsheet, where is she on here? So if you go here, big thing is she's got a lot of pros, few cons. That's just a big thing that just stuck out to me immediately. Now I'm guessing all the tier 0s are like that, and they kind of are. But when you kind of look through them, the big thing is one of the combos that I've seen in here. Kuke and Parida is a deadly combo in guild bosses. Previously, it used to be impossible for Parida to trigger all of her support attacks, but with the Kluke introduction, she's no longer the case. Now, Kluke, from my understanding, came out quite a bit later in the game on the CN side, but we have no clue on the order they're going to be going with. And some of these cons, like the one on the bottom here, completely invalidates other grenadiers. Well, if she completely invalidates other grenadiers, that I see as a win, as in I don't need to pull for any other limited grenadiers if she completely invalidates them. Now, I'm guessing that's not 100% the case, but that is, to me, can be a positive to a certain capacity. And then could be stuck on low resources when she runs out of targets. That one seems like she'll have resource issues because she's wanting to attack enemies a lot. So that's a so-so on a con. So I don't see anything glaringly bad on that. And then I see that she has a good combo with another unit. And so I'm like, well, I can look at that other unit. Now, one thing with Parita, which it says she's deadly with, you can get her as a free-to-play without having to spend any pulls. So there's going to be another free-to-play gotcha system that you can do weekly that has a chance to give you her. Now, it's a very low chance, and it might take a bit to get her with this system, but over time, you'll eventually get her. So that is immediately one teammate that's really good that'll work with her, that I won't have to spend limited currency to get. So that's a win in that book on that. So Kluke is a unit that I will target when I see her, just for that fact alone at this point. That could always change depending on my luck and what standard units and stuff I get in the game, and as well as I learn more of the kits from the others. But then there's the other one that I'm looking at here, which is Makahito. I'm terrible with these names, but Makahito is another one I've been looking at when I look at this list. And there's a good reason for that one as well. If you go into the chart, it basically says she's really good DPS, can inflict chill, which is a good movement capabilities. And we already know with that movement, especially like other games like Sword of Convallaria, slowing the enemies down is so massive. And I've always liked ice units in games because of that fact. And there is a good unit that'll work really well alongside her that we also, I know, will get for free on the Frost side of things, which is going to be Sabrina, because you can get her through, you can get so many copies of her through a shop, and then you can eventually max her out. So I'm already kind of seeing a synergy with her and Sabrina. And when I kind of look at what are some of the cons, I mean, because you always want to take those into consideration. So she has buffs that are dependent on having more than 80% HP. Her fixed key requires her having 100% HP, which can be difficult to accomplish. All right, so on that one, keeping 100% HP, there is a unit that I'm going for that we're getting immediately at the beginning of the game, and that is Suami. And she has massive, massive shields. And with Suami, it's going to be significantly easier to kind of offset that con of not having 100% HP. I know I'm going to have her, and so that's going to be a very good unit to pair alongside her to make sure she's staying at 100% HP. And since we're doing rerolls, it's very likely that I might get Suami with very few limited pulls needed. Then it says loses her Overwatch once her shield is broken. So it seems like she can also put up her own shield, which is why she's probably dependent on the shields to keep her HP up. Now, I don't know how shields can 100% work in this game. If you use her shield alongside a Suami shield, can they stack? Or is just Suami's, which is going to be probably most likely a much bigger shield, just completely invalidate hers? I don't know in that case. So that's something I'll kind of have to look out for, especially as I'm testing to see how shield stacking works in this game. Like a game like Sword of Convallaria, you can stack shields in a certain capacity, so you can get some massive shields on your teammates. And so I'm kind of expecting to see that here. And so with those two combo, that just kind of invalidates this one. And I would see that one is invalidating this one, because if Tsunami's shield goes on top of hers and it doesn't prevent this, meaning Tsunami's shield can cover this, then she should stay in Overwatch at all times. And Overwatch is going to be great in being able to do damage to enemies outside her turn. And then this negative is Chill is a weaker debuff compared to Paralysis. Enemies may not be able to move, but they can still attack. So they're not able to move, but be able to attack. But slowing them down gives you better positioning capabilities. And so far, what I'm seeing from the meta on some of these units and what makes them great is being able to just control the battlefield, so you're able to put your units in positions to get them out of cover or break them from the cover. And so this one just seems like you just have to think more strategically if you're dealing with Chill. So these negatives here really don't seem to impact her for me. And then I already know I'm going to have some great units to work alongside her, so that makes her a great pull for me as well. Now with that, I know that they're almost certainly not going to just take all the tier zeros, at least on a majority of the tier list, and just make them back to back to back to back for us. Now it seems like they're going to do dual banners where you have two different debut banners, so you might have to choose between the two. But it's very unlikely they're just going to start sticking these T0s out there for us to try and grab. So I'm also kind of looking now when we get down into the lower tiers and what their values are. And so the first one, as I've dug through them, stuck out to me was Mekti here. And so when I go to her, so she's another corrosion type, much like Kluke here. And so when you look at her pros and cons, just at a quick glance, does everything you can possibly want from a support with top tier defense shredding and dispelling. So she can shred defense and dispel, so that'll work really well and kind of as a big debuffer. and she's surprisingly survivable between a stability self-heal and defensive buffs. And then when I kind of see the cons, has a downtime between her alt activations, not a deal breaker by any means, it's just another thing you have to keep track of. So you're just having that's just something you have to think of when it comes to the strategy. Her damage isn't great, although she is a support, so you're not expecting that. And it says she is pretty much tied to Kluke as the same as Parita. And so we're already seeing like a first team that I'm focusing on here. She's tied to Kluke because she works really well with Kluke. I'm going to be targeting Kluke, so it seems like I want to get Mekti to kind of tie her to Kluke to kind of start getting that first big team together. And so that one's not a con at all. I mean, it's just there's no, at the moment there's no point in pulling her without Kluke. So if I'm going to get Kluke, then I'm going to pull her. Now that kind of begs the differ: is she going to be coming before or after Kluke? I don't know that, and we don't know. We can't use CN as any kind of guide because they've already thrown a big wrench in the current ones they're releasing. And so that can be a tough decision on deciding on whether you want to get her if she comes first. But since I know I'm pretty sure Kluke at this point I'm going to want to target, she is somebody that if I see her coming up, I'll most likely pull on. And with that, that's just my preliminary looks at characters that I am kind of targeting in the future and kind of some of my plans. Now, like I said, this is very hard to make decisions based on what we know is coming in the future because with Sword of Convallaria, they did make changes, but they still kind of follow the similar order to CN. Like they had the same grouping of units coming out. It's not like they just threw somebody that came out 5 months later right at the beginning like we're seeing currently with Girls Frontline 2. And Ash Echoes, they're just following the CN at this point. They haven't really changed anything. And so it is going to be tough because it's just going to have to evolve as units come out because you don't want to just completely keep skipping the entire time if the units that I don't want are coming out. So I'll have to make decisions on the spot. So these are just some of my initial plans and thoughts on units coming out. Now, I have not looked through everybody on here yet. I did see one that, like Papasha here, she is, what it says on here is completely free. Completely free, while it will take some time to get her and her weapon to dupe 6, it's 100% free. So we already have a unit that is an SSR. Now, she's only tier 2, so I'm guessing she's not the best in the world, but you can get her to dupe 6 and her weapon to dupe 6 completely free from what it's stating here. And so, well, I'll be doing that. And if she has a limited banner, I'm not going to be pulling on it, so that's an easy decision there. And it's kind of a decision like some of these ones on the bottom here, Jiang Yu right here. The big thing I saw on her, a big negative, is she's very reliant on dupes, and even to make her useful at all, you pretty much want to get her to her 6th dupe. So she would be just a complete waste to pull on because she relies so heavily on her dupes. And so that are just some of my initial thoughts on the units. This is going to evolve, especially after I get into the game and get to play it a bit, and we kind of see where I go with regarding the standard units. But right now, that is just my thoughts on it. And then that kind of leads into making content on future units coming out. So like with Sword of Convallaria, I've been taking the CN translations and making videos on them and kind of showing how they work from CN videos. I kind of want to do the same thing with these units. Now, the one problem I'm going to have is because we can't really predict the order at this point because they said it's going to change. So I'm just going to kind of have to figure out an order I kind of want to do with them. Because I want to kind of get ahead of the game. It's kind of what I was doing this weekend. I've already gone over 3 of the standards, plus gone over Suami, and I want to get the rest of them. I'll hopefully get one out tomorrow, and then one and a couple out on the release day, and maybe a day after. We'll just kind of have to see how it works out there. And then after that, just kind of start going through them. But I don't have a specific order or plan at this point. Maybe I'll just go through them in the order they came out in CN, and then they'll just come out with whatever order they do for global, and we just kind of live with it at that point. But yeah, that pretty much is it. If you like my content, if you could like, comment, or subscribe, it really helps. And thanks for watching.